All right, y'all, welcome back. My name is Lara Williams. This is Sonographers After Dark, and I am joined today by Lisa Carnprobst. Hey, Lisa, welcome.
Hey Laura, how are you?
I'm good. So, I wanted to invite you onto this podcast because first of all, just value you within the field. I so appreciate everything that you've taught me through the years. And so, and working together at multiple different places together, it's been good. And so, I just wanted to have some conversations around things that you've done in your career and also just some career paths that people might be looking for. I think so many sonographers are a little burnout and are looking for some change. And so I've kind of been exploring different avenues of career paths that maybe, if you've been scanning for quite a while and you're looking for a change, what people can do. So that brought me to you because you don't
Fantastic.
scan every day anymore.
Do not. I do
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
have not for a little while now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
But
you and I worked together at a hospital facility and you were the director of the lab there.
yes.
And so you made the jump into pharmaceutical sales for ultrasound enhancing agents. So talk to me about that. What you enjoyed about that role, and then we'll talk about your current role and what you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah. So like you said, I was a director of a lab and decided that, some of that crunch starts to be a bit much and had an opportunity to move over to contrast or ultrasound enhancing agent sales. And that role was, it was a transition for sure. It was a lot of fun. I learned quite a bit and several aspects of it. But moving from scanning patients to really focusing on teaching others, one specific type of scanning like that, or one type specific modality like that, it kind of enlightened my career a little bit even more. So I've had a great journey throughout my career. I think this is one of the best fields that you can possibly get into. And for so many reasons, because like you said, there's different avenues we can take. And with the enhancing agents, they all work a little differently. They all have some great perks to them. And moving into that, like I said, it enlightened me. It gave me a different perspective. A lot of travel, that was different. Um, Getting into different hospitals and seeing how vastly different some of our protocols are, even though
Yeah.
we're all focusing on the same thing, was something new for me to realize as well. So uh, it was a great move.
Yeah.
I really appreciated
So,
it.
I mean, the change from day to day, when you're used to going to a hospital day in, day out, and then all of a sudden your whole schedule is completely different and you
Yeah.
go to so many different places every day. Like, how did you manage that difference and how did that impact your personal life? Because that's a huge change personally as well.
Yes. So I would say, at first, it was very difficult to manage because I was so used to going to one place every single day. So I had to find a new way to organize because I was very organized. I don't know if you remember that in my office. I
You're
was very
very, very,
organized.
very, very, very organized.
And when you don't have an office to go to every day and your office is somewhere different, you can't organize the same way. So I had to find new things to do. I learned to use the computer files much more, different ways of utilizing my phone. And just managing things from more of an electronic standpoint than a paper standpoint, which is probably
Yeah.
better anyways because of where we are in the world now. But this was several years back. We still were on paper a lot.
We were.
So
It's like 2017, right? Somewhere in that ballpark, if I
yes,
remember
yes, yes.
correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. Things were moving over more digitally, but we still use paper quite a bit. But yeah, so I had to learn a whole new way of organizing. Not only my day-to-day needs, but also my schedule, because I may be in one city today and I'm expected in a completely different city or time zone tomorrow. So managing, making sure my hotels are booked and making sure my flights are booked and a rental car and all of those things. So it was just a new environment on that aspect. some funny stories, or one funny story I'll put out there. I won't bore you with a bunch, but
That's
um,
okay.
the rental cars are always different. So,
Yeah.
I'm at a site and I walk out of the hospital and I come to the end of the day, and not only do I not remember where I parked, I don't even know what floor I'm in. So
And I've
I
forgotten what hotel room I'm in too.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you run into little things like that that you're like, I never had to think about these things before. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. There's definitely some interesting aspects to travel. I transitioned into industry a couple years after you did. I think it was like 2 years later that I transitioned and moved over into working as a clinical marketing manager. So the role is a little bit different than what you were doing, but I was traveling a lot too. And, there's things that you don't realize until you're doing that every day. You think travel's glamorous and
Me
it's
too.
not.
Not at all. It is
you
not at
know,
all.
living your life on a plane is not glamorous. It's just not,
Yes.
I mean, there's perks to it, you get your points and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool.
I did
Um,
just take an all-inclusive trip on points. I will say
yeah,
that.
it adds up.
All-inclusive for
It's
2. Yeah.
definitely in some ways it does work out and it's worth
Yeah.
it. But I know for me, so for the first time since 2019, I'm facing losing all of my status.
That is
I don't know how to feel about that.
I
Because,
mean, the
I
status is
haven't
great when you're traveling.
it is, and I haven't been traveling for the last, like, 3 months, so, I started out this year saying that my goal was to lose my status, but now that I'm actually about to lose my status, I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. You're
I've
like,
been a
"No,
little spoiled.
don't do that." Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it
Yeah,
is. It's like, you start to kinda chasing that a little bit. But, I
you do.
mean, when you're traveling constantly, those are the little perks that you get. Like you said, it is not glamorous being on a plane all the time. It is not glamorous being at the mercy of Delta Airlines and whether or not they're gonna have a delay.
Or
It
United.
is
Yeah.
yes, and it is not always fabulous staying in some of these hotels. I mean, I did have one bedbug nightmare in my
Oh,
field. Now I've been doing this for like 10 years now, or no, 7 year, 8, whatever
8,
year,
8, I think, 8,
8
9?
years.
Yeah, it's close
Um,
enough.
but
Yeah.
so it was only one time in that time frame. But those things are
I can't even imagine. Ugh.
yes, yeah, those
Oh,
things are not always so glamorous. But
no.
you do get the perks. Like I said, I just took an all
Was that
inclusive.
I shouldn't throw the hotel brand under the bus. Never mind, I won't ask.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
okay.
gonna ask
It was
what
it
hotel
was
that
a
was at.
very small town, that, just the hotels there were no great options there, and
Yeah,
sometimes you run into that. Like I said,
yeah,
there's sometimes you bite the bullet and you get a little snobby with your hotels and flights just because you're in them and on them so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
But there are
My
times
husband calls me a hotel snob.
yeah, you get that way,
You
because
do.
you're in so many of them. You see the great ones, you see the worst ones. You
Yeah,
don't want to stay in the worst ones.
yeah,
But in this field, sometimes you do,
yeah,
so sometimes you're stuck in the airport. Sometimes you can't make it home. There's all those things. But would I give it up to go back? I probably wouldn't.
yeah,
I really love what I'm doing. I think it was a fantastic move for me. It's been, um, you asked me earlier about how it affected my family. At first, it
yeah,
was very hard. Um, my husband and I have figured out a way to make it work. We spend our evenings on either FaceTime or Netflix watching the same movie together, or, things like that. And then, of course, he gets to reap the rewards of going to an all inclusive resort on points too. So,
yeah.
so
So he's okay.
he's okay with it,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, we've made
Yeah.
it work, but you have to find that way to make it work with your spouse
Mhm.
or your significant other and your family, because there is a lot of time that is spent away.
Yeah.
So how do you stay connected? You need to make sure that you're staying connected to that family, that family unit that you have.
Yeah. I spoke with a former colleague of mine who does clinical applications, and there's a difference between a sales role and a clinical
Mm,
applications role. I think clinical applications, yes, you're traveling a lot, but your region is probably a little bit smaller. Sales, you cover, I think, a larger region than maybe a clinical apps person might cover. So you work with multiple clinical app specialists for depending on what you're doing. And I know you've since transitioned from that pharmaceutical role into a ultrasound manufacturer equipment sales role, which is still very much, again, kind of similar, but there's some differences to it. So talk about kind of that transition too, and what that looks like a little differently.
Yeah. So, looking at I keep wanting to say contrast. We don't say that.
Oh,
The
it's a word we
enhanced,
all use. I know,
I know,
contrast.
but
We
the
know what you're
enhanced,
talking about. Those
but
VAs. Yeah.
working with those are what we call consumables. So they are being consumed on a monthly basis. The way that things work for your quota is based on, a monthly quota essentially. And so you're always kind of working towards that goal of increasing month over month, quarter over quarter, all of that stuff. And so you're constantly keeping in tabs with your customers. Some of it's the same, some of it's different, but it's a little bit of a different beast in that nature. Moving over to capital equipment on the ultrasound equipment sales side, it's a bit different. The buying process is much longer for a lot of these places. They have to kind of go through, when I was in enhancing agents, we could go in and do a demo, and if they really wanted to buy, they could start buying the next week. Sometimes you had to go through a formulary process and get approved, usually if it was a hospital, through the pharmacy. But that didn't take long. They had meetings frequently. Whereas, now I go in and I start working with a site, and they're not going to have budget until next fall, but I need to make sure that I'm working with them throughout that entire process because everybody wants that equipment that's coming next fall. So,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a different beast in that manner, where you have to be cognizant of when the buying powers are there, making sure that you're able to get the equipment in, delivered, have a clinical apps specialist there to be able to assist with a demo or a training or any of those aspects. So it's a little bit, I don't want to say more complex, it's a different complexity.
Yeah, I think it's all complex, but yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I
Yeah.
think, so there's sales reps that have no ultrasound background at all. But I feel like because you are a sonographer, you have the credentials, but sometimes you don't go in as the specialist because you're going in as the salesperson. You
Yeah.
have a clinical specialist that handles that interaction clinically. So how hard has that been for you? Because I think you're the sonographer, you also have that knowledge and that background. So for me, that would be really hard for me to like scale that back,
Yeah.
but I think you've had to.
Yeah. When I was in enhancing agents, not quite as much. I did a lot of dual roles type of thing. Some of it was because I was the only person. Some of it was because we just needed a little bit of an extra hand. And some of it is just because I'm a nerd and I like to do stuff like that. So I did kind of do a lot of dual role in that position. Since I've transitioned over to this role, I don't do that quite as much. I try to stay in my lane and not overstep my clinical team's expertise. I value them very much, and I'm very grateful for what they bring to the table. They have been trained more on the equipment than I have. Can I pick it up and do it? I absolutely can. Can I do it to their level? No, I can't. I haven't had the same training that they've had. I'm self training on it, which we can do, of course. But the systems I work with have a robust software program in them. So, me getting in there and really learning all about that software to the point where I can speak to it to the clinical team, it's just not there.
It's not your
So
role.
it's not my role, and I want to stay in my lane because I value the team that I have to work with. So, so it is tough sometimes to kind of stand back because when things aren't necessarily going the way I want them to go, I'm like, I feel like if I was in there, I would know what's going on a little bit better, and things like
Yeah.
that. But I have to keep reminding myself, that's not where my position is right now. I can
Mhm.
talk to my clinical team after and kind of get some of the information that I need. I do have some clinical that are like, "Hey, come on in with me. I want you to be in there," and really ask me to be involved in that and are fine with it. And I'm grateful because it allows me to put my hand in there. And then the ones that don't necessarily want me in there, I can take that step back and give them, let them run their role the way they need to.
Yeah. No, and that's good to have that professionalism I think appreciation, because I know some of the clinical apps team that you work with. So, and they are excellent. They really do know their stuff. So, giving them their space to do their shine where they are supposed to is good. But I think for me, I found it very difficult transitioning into industry because I wasn't scanning regularly. And
Yeah.
that was a big hit for me. Even when I owned my own businesses in the past, and I always made sure I scanned at least 1 or 2 days a week. Like I always wanted to scan. I never wanted to lose that skill. And even in industry, I actually took a per diem role at a hospital because I didn't
Mhm.
want to lose my skills scanning.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's the hardest transition that I would have if I were in a role like yours. So how hard has that been for you, and how has that impacted your just overall mindset in ultrasound?
Yeah. So for me, it's a little bit different because, I started in ultrasound in 1998. And I kind of moved into leadership fairly quickly, technical director at first, then manager, and then up to director, where, it was kind of a larger system. So from the time I got into management, I did still continue to scan, but it wasn't quite as often. So I kind of slowly moved away from the scanning to the point where when I was a director, I think at that point I was just doing like the research patient that would come once a month. So for me, I don't think it was as difficult because I wasn't doing it quite as often, but I have definitely like batted around the idea of doing per diem to get my hands back into the game. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm the right person anymore.
Well, I
I
think
know
it's
the
hard to do
knowledge
per diem when you are doing a sales role. You don't have
is
time for that.
very hard. It is
Yeah.
very hard because some days I'm not home all week, and do I wanna go work the weekend when I'm not home all
No.
week? I really don't. I wanna spend that time with my family, and my
Yeah.
dogs. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
um,
get
so it
it.
doesn't. But I have batted around the idea. But like I said, for me, I'm registered in peds too, and I always tell people like, yeah, I'm registered in it. Am I the right person to do it? Absolutely not. And I
Do you
feel the
want me
same
scanning your infant? Probably
way.
not.
Probably not. Do I have the knowledge? Yes. But do I think that there's things I could miss? Probably because I'm not doing it day in and day out. And those are the
Yeah.
people that
It's
really
been a little while
know.
for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
2 years.
and I'm kind of getting to the point where I feel that way about adults too. Can I do it? Absolutely, I can do it. But I feel like we've got, great people in the field that do it day in and day out and are probably more of the experts at that than I am at this point. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment. I just started up another mobile ultrasound company.
Congratulations. That's
Hey.
fantastic.
So I'm like, I'm scanning, period. I'm gonna scan. Even if it's, 1 day a week, I don't care. I'm gonna scan as part of that because I don't ever want to let my skills go. And
Yeah,
so, I've taken kind of a year here or a year there to while I'm working other roles, but I've always kind of come back to that piece of making sure that I'm scanning. But that's just me. I have time for that in my schedule, kind of, sort of,
yeah,
at the moment. But I think if you're holding a full-time sales role, that would be very, very difficult.
it can be.
Um, yeah.
And I get my
So
hands on the probe on occasion, and I know that I can still do it. But again, doing it and having the muscle memory to, the I don't want to say the muscle memory, but the strength. I mean,
mhm. Yeah.
let's face it,
It's
we don't
my
lift
shoulder
heavy
kills me.
things, but yes, it's a difficult. You're utilizing those muscles a lot, and so like they're just not there. So to go through a
Yeah.
whole 45-minute scan, really they're longer than 45 minutes. Let's all admit that.
Yeah.
Um, but to go through an entire exam like that, again, I if I need to, absolutely, I could jump back into the field.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it would take me a little practice.
But you shine in sales. I mean, I think that you're really good with people. And that's so let's talk about kind of some of the elements of what it takes to be successful in a sales role, converting over from being a sonographer. Because again, if someone's looking to get out of scanning every day because they're tired and their shoulders are hurting, you know, not everybody is cut out for sales. So, what are the things that you think really truly matter when it comes to personality, when it comes to being able to be successful in a sales role?
So I think, I think everybody thinks that if you're in sales, you can't be introverted, and I don't think that that's true. I would say that I am dual. I'm both introverted and extroverted,
Yeah.
and I tend to be more of a reserved salesperson. I think, but I think the key things for somebody that wants to move into sales is: are you capable, and you know how are you with randomly talking to people? Because you are having a lot of conversations with people. Can you handle rejection? Because I mean, let's face it, a lot of people hear sales and, they just don't have the time and they don't want to be bothered with it right now. And sometimes it can feel a little personal, and it's not personal.
It
Um,
takes 7 no's to get a yes
yes,
is
it really
the
does.
general rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yes. So, you get told no quite a bit. Sometimes people, for whatever reason, are not the most friendly whenever you come in. And usually, you know, luckily, having a background in ultrasound, I know that that's not usually me either. That's usually the day that they're having, because we have those days that are just like, I cannot talk to you right now. I have a million things on my plate. So, but you need to be able to handle that. I think that that's a big thing without letting it set you back from being able to continue on and continue forward and to come back and keep asking. Um, I think that you need to be able to, again, talk with people. Finding commonality with people is key. The world is very divided at this point, I think. And I think if we all remember that every single one of us can find commonality in life, and so being in a sales role, it's very important to find that commonality with people and connect with them on whatever it is. And really, you just do that by talking, talking to them, learning about their life, learning about their family, learning about, if they don't want to talk personally, hey, what do you like to do in ultrasound? What's your excitement in here? Things like that.
Asking
um,
questions. That's how
asking
you
questions.
connect.
Yes, asking questions is key. So, just somebody that is not afraid to talk to people, that is open to, you know, like I said, finding that, building relationships, maintaining relationships. Once you get those relationships, like, you're not just selling and walking away. You need to continue to maintain that. You're building friendships. I mean, that's the way I look at it. You're building friendships across the country. I mean,
Yeah.
I've built friendships across the country. I have friends in this field all over this country. And, you know, I think we all know it's a small field.
It is a small world after all.
It really is a small world after
Disney
all.
got it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to build those relationships,
Nope.
and so I think anybody that is willing to kind of step in and can understand those aspects of it is going to be very successful. Personally, I found that having my clinical background has awarded me a bit more ability to connect with people in the field. And although I work in sales, a lot of times people will respect my opinion and things that I'm talking about and how I approach them. One, because I try to be very transparent, but two, because I have the clinical background. So they know that I at least have an understanding of what they are running into on a daily basis.
Yeah. They
So
understand that
it's
you know the workflow and you can respect and understand where they're coming from. If they are having a busy day and they don't have time to talk to you, you understand why.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I always try to let people know that too, but I think more companies are realizing the value of having sonographers move into these, sales type roles and clinical we have a lot of clinical sales positions that are opening up in industry, and like I said, I think people or the companies are starting to realize that there's a benefit to that,
Yeah.
because, do we get a little snobby in our field? A little bit. You want people to
What?
understand your job. There's
What?
just there's just so much to the job anymore. I mean, when you're a
Sonographers are
sonographer,
snobs? Are you kidding me?
you know what I mean. Like, you wanna talk to somebody that understands, because we're overwhelmed, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Overwhelmed every day. There's more and more measurements being added. You're not getting more time. The patients are getting more difficult. The
Yep.
patients have expectations. I mean, they get on the table, they want to be done in 5 minutes. They don't
I
want to sit
know.
through all of that.
It's like
You know,
it's this TikTok world where even the patients just they don't have time and attention for anything. Like,
correct. Correct. And
Yeah,
it's like, reimbursements getting less. So, our organizations want more. So it's just the struggle that's going on. So having people that have been through that and can understand that, it helps, I think. Not saying the people that haven't can't do it. They absolutely can. And a lot of them really do understand it. But I think when you're talking to the teams, especially at the sonographer level, they can appreciate that a bit more. So it's a great avenue for anybody that is looking to make that transition. And I know I encourage people to look to see, if that's something that they're interested in, look for those clinical sales roles because um, you're valuable for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so let's talk about some of the qualifications of that. Like most of the facilities that are looking for sales want you to have a bachelor's degree. That's
Yes.
reality,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a bachelor's degree and you're looking to go outside of scanning, you should probably get your bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Step one.
Absolutely. Yes. Step
Yeah.
one. Yes, for sure.
Step
And they
one.
have some programs. There's a lot of
Yeah.
programs out there you can even do online and get it
Yep.
done.
I was
So
going to say that.
it's not like you have to buckle up and find, a couple days to
Right.
go back to school a week. I mean, you can do evenings and things like that. But yes, that would be number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got my bachelor's degree from an online program as well.
Yeah.
So, in diagnostic medical sonography.
Yeah.
So, it was a secondary in healthcare administration. So it's
Perfect.
absolutely doable. That was like a 1 year program for me. And it's like a little over a year. So yeah, there's programs that you can do that. So step one would be make sure you have your bachelor's degree
Mhm.
and, highlight your work experience. Maybe what about like shadowing? I don't know if there I think that there are some organizations that start out with like a program for sales. I believe that they have actually like a almost a apprentice type of program to
They do.
bring
Yeah.
people into sales. Um
They do. A lot of times, the people that I see in there tend to be kind of like newer students right out of school for sales, but that doesn't
yeah,
mean that it couldn't be something that people wanted to look into.
yeah,
Um, and I think one of the best ways to start, if this is something that people are interested in, is build relationships with your vendors because it is a difficult it is difficult to get into these positions. A lot of people want them. I won't say everybody wants them because there's a lot of people that don't want them, but
yeah,
a lot of people want to move over into industry. So it's very highly competitive. And some of the best thing, one of the best things that you can do is build good relationships with your vendors. When they come in and they want to talk to you and you have the time, take that time to talk with them because they can help you if this is something that you're looking for too. So,
yeah,
like you said, the bachelor's degree is very important. Building the relationship is very important because one, it shows that you can make a relationship, right? And that's what
yeah,
this is. That's what sales is all about, building
yeah,
those relationships, keeping those relationships. I mean, that's key. And then I think, really understanding when you're going for a role, what am I going for? What, don't apply for a job just because it's there. Like have an understanding of what it is. Is it equipment? Is it, an enhancing agent? Now we've got, drugs that are,
mhm,
attached to echocardiography,
yes.
things like that. So really have an understanding of what product you're applying for, and
And
know
AI products. There's also a lot of
a lot of
companies that are
AI.
now
Yes,
attached to Echo as well, and General Ultrasound that do a lot of different aspects of reporting or AI interpretation, analysis, those types of things too.
yes,
So I think there's a lot of
absolutely.
avenues that people can go.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Totally
So
agree.
yeah, I think another thing too is also improving your own communication skills and making sure you're really proficient with computers, with Microsoft
Yes,
Teams,
very
because you're
much
going
so.
to use it.
Yes,
Things like
they're
that.
going to
That
be organized.
yeah, you got to be organized. You have to make sure that you are adapt to PowerPoint, right? Because even in a
Yes,
sales role, you're giving presentations
a
and you're
lot.
doing a lot of PowerPoint. So, those types of things might get overlooked, but if you can make sure that your skill sets are built up in that, that can just help you along the way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Basics, but
are you good with public speaking? Because you're getting up in front of and talking to people. I mean, I've had crowds. I mean, I've done other public speaking events where I've
yeah,
had, several
yeah,
hundred people.
right.
And then, there's times where you're just going in and talking to 5 or 6 people, but you have to be comfortable and confident getting up and being able to present have conversations like that with a large group of people.
Yeah.
Um, so that's another thing is being capable of doing that.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
but yeah, I think those are some of the key things that you would want to kind of prepare for the role. And then, obviously making sure that this is something that's going to fit into your life,
Yeah.
is are you able to travel this month? I mean, there's times where I am gone the entire week. In fact, then this month I'm gone almost the entire month because there's conferences and, on the
Right. Let's talk
weekend.
about trade show season.
Yes,
It's a
trade
thing.
it is. Trade show
Sales, it's a
season.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
starting to wrap up for this
Yeah.
year, but we do have them. And
Yeah.
then, I am located in the South.
Mhm.
And so everybody wants to come there in the winter for shows and things like that. So it can get very busy. And you're in sales, you need to make your number.
Right.
And so you can't take the week off or take a couple days off during the week just because you work the weekend because
Yeah.
now you're putting off a demo or a lunch and learn or a meeting with a customer or anything else. And so trade show season, you're not home a lot.
Yeah. It gets
Yeah,
really busy. I mean, there's
it
the
does.
ASC, there's the SDMS, there's the IUM. And I mean, I know that your focus is cardiology,
There's
but
ICUS.
and sometimes there's some areas you might be able to do shared service focus. Some is just going to focus in women's health or general ultrasound. So depending on what your focus is in the region and area that you're working, you would go to different trade shows, but sometimes they
Yes.
overlap, you know?
Many times
So
they overlap.
yeah.
I mean,
And
I
you're
think this year ASC and SDMS were back to back, weren't
They
they?
were, I know, because I was at ASC and then I spoke at
Oh,
SDMS. So,
and ICUS was too. ICUS was the same time
yeah,
too, I think. So yeah,
yeah. ASC
it,
was weird this year.
it was.
They were like in September, which never happens. It's
Yeah,
usually in June. But
yeah.
yeah, so
But
they
I
definitely there's yeah, definitely a season where pretty much every weekend you're at a trade show. And it's about a
yes,
2.5 month long thing. So
it is. Yeah.
and it usually wraps up with RSNA for general for
Yep.
general
Coming up in a
sonography.
couple of weeks. Yeah.
Always fun.
Yeah.
So,
So again, like I think that's something that people need to like take into account, like if they want to come into this field, just knowing that there's going to be times where they're not home a lot. So, knowing coming into it, I think when I started into it, I kind of knew, and like you said, I kind of thought like the travel would be fun and something different. And I find myself a lot of times in my room ordering Uber Eats,
yep.
just to.
Grubhub
Um,
was like, yeah.
Yes, yes. But,
Yeah.
like I said, finding a way, knowing first of all whether or not you can be away from home.
Yeah.
And then second of all, finding ways to stay connected at home while you're away.
Yeah.
Those are just things to be prepared for on a different level. So, because sometimes it can be hard.
Yeah, for me, so some of my travels took me international, and so I was working in Japan and France and other places, and so that can be even more difficult because then you're on like completely different time schedule and you're trying to connect with people at home, but it's midnight and it's like 12,
Yes.
3 a.m., 3 p.m. And so that can be a challenge too, which is different from, a typical sales role. For me, I was doing some global training and marketing and product manager type roles. So
Yeah.
mine did take me globally, but that was even a whole other challenge. So, depending
It
on what
is.
you're doing, it can be really hard to make sure that you are leaving room for your personal life
Yes.
because you have to plan it out and be really good at keeping a calendar like to the T. So for me,
Absolutely.
that's been the only way that I was able to just even have any time at all for myself is to make sure like I literally will schedule like every single little tiny thing in my calendar because if I don't,
Yes.
I
Everything.
lose track of it all.
And there's still times where I lose track of it all, you know that. But you're right,
I
you
don't.
have to put every if you have a nail appointment, it needs to be in that calendar.
Oh, everything. Yeah.
Hair appointment needs to be in the calendar.
I would
There's a
schedule my drive time to the airport in my
yes, yes,
calendar
yes,
because
yes.
I'm an hour and a half away from the airport. So,
Yes.
and that was really a challenge for me too, was the time it took for me when I was traveling every single week, multiple flights a week. I was an hour and a half away from the airport.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Like that's the other
I'm
thing you got
here
to consider.
25, 30 minutes, so it's not
Yeah,
bad
for
for
you
me
it's
like
not too
that.
bad, but your airport doesn't go very many places.
It doesn't. Goes to
Sorry.
Atlanta.
Yeah. And then you can go anywhere. But yeah,
Yeah.
you have connections pretty much everywhere you go.
Yes. That is true.
Um,
I guess my commute is to the airport and then to Atlanta and then wherever I'm going.
correct. That's okay. Mine is an hour and a half away and still doesn't go to very many places. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
also had
Not
connections.
good, not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a few more places than yours, but
Mhm.
yeah. So building kind of understanding how all of that impacts your time, when you have been gone for a week and then you have to drive home an hour and a half at midnight.
Yes.
It can be challenging, you
It
know.
can be very challenging. And really, like, even getting into, like, device sales or the device world,
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, especially through
The
that training
support.
phase,
Yeah.
that training phase can be very intense, and sometimes you wake up in the morning and you don't know what city like, there's just, like, this instant that goes through your mind where you're just like, "Okay, where am I? What city
I
am I
have
in? What time
I
zone is
have
it? Where do I have to be?
literally
What's"
sat in an airport and been like, "What airport am I in? I don't even know."
Yes. Yes.
And then I'm like, "Oh wait, no, I know where I'm at. I'm O'Hare. Okay, I'm good."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
some of those things, and, but again, I make it sound like it's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
You know,
It's
it's
not.
just it's a different stress than
It
what
is.
the
Yeah.
stresses are today.
Yeah.
Um, when you're dealing with patient care, that level of stress is much different,
Right.
and maybe a little more intense. Whereas this level of stress is more of a frustration, I would say sometimes, like when you're
Yeah.
getting a delay and you really want to get
Yeah.
home and,
Yeah.
some of those things. So,
You get used to just sitting in an airport because whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
I'm the type of person, and I'm sure this is going to shock you, Laura, but I'm the type of person that takes the chance that I might miss the flight by getting there last minute. um,
What? Yeah. So I freak my family out when I fly because
yeah.
they're like, we have to get there like 3 hours. And I'm like, whatever. Are you kidding me? I show up a half hour before my board, not even before my boarding,
Me
before my
too.
flight takes off.
Yeah, I'm there about like I've learned the airports,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty much like getting through TSA and walking onto the plane at this point,
That's pretty much
because
me. I
you can
I do
travel.
allow enough time to grab a Starbucks.
Yeah,
And then
I
leave, but
allow enough time to grab a drink too.
yeah.
Not an alcoholic drink, but,
No.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I usually leave that too. But yeah, I mean, but I still I know people in the field that have been doing this for even longer than me that still they need to be there the 2 hours ahead of time. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. Just me
Yeah.
personally, I don't
I
wanna
don't
sit
have
in the
time
airport
for that.
that long. Yeah,
I
so
mean, and I've only ever missed one flight, and that was for leisure with my son.
oh, I've missed more than one,
I
but,
missed one.
they were for various reasons. One time I went to the wrong
Well,
airport. Twice I went to the wrong airport.
oh no.
Yeah. One time I flew so I was supposed to fly into Cleveland and fly out of Pittsburgh. I was going somewhere in between, and, I missed 2 at the same time. So I've missed more than 2. So anyways, so I missed it, getting there, and so I ended up flying into Pittsburgh, and in my mind, I was going in one and out the other, so I assumed I was
You're
flying out
from
of Cleveland.
Pittsburgh.
I know, originally, yeah. So I assumed I was flying out of Cleveland. So I'm rushing to the Cleveland airport and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be running late. And,
No.
I drop my rental car off and I get into the airport. I can't find my flight anywhere because it's not even there. So I call the airlines and they couldn't help me
They
that
all
day.
laughed
So,
at you. Yeah.
yeah, they were just like, there's no more flights leaving today. And I'm like crying, and then I ended up just booking on another airline. But yeah, so those things happen,
That's
and you just have to
funny.
kinda chuckle at yourself and just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh,"
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Well,
it happens,
yeah.
because you can get really upset, but
Yeah. I mean, I've missed flights because of delays because the flight was late, kind of missing. But as
yeah,
far as like actually missing a flight because of my own wrongdoing, yeah, no, it was it was one time my son and I were just taking a trip to Florida on points
yeah,
and to see my
good.
parents. And yeah, we totally missed it. We were in Starbucks and the gate closed. I
Yeah,
don't know. Anyway.
yeah. I had one time where I got there and they said the flight was delayed till such and such time, and so I went literally right across to the restaurant that was there and sat down and I got breakfast and, I'm keeping an eye on my watch and everything, and I go back over when it's time and everybody's gone. And I'm like, what happened? Oh, we got the plane fixed early and we left. I'm like, I'm right across. How did I miss this?
Yeah.
Missed it, you know.
Yeah. Nice.
But
Yeah. And And you have those like notorious times where I literally swear there was this one time I think I was coming back from a conference in Phoenix or something, and I was traveling through San Francisco. So here I am in San Francisco. We're on the plane. And then for whatever reason, there's a mechanical error. And so they had to take us off the plane. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So then they take us off the plane, they put us back on the plane. And so now we're like a couple hours delayed, put us back on the plane. And this is supposed to be red eye so that I can actually get home in time. And so they put us back on the plane. Something else happens. And in the middle, like they let people get off and on the plane, but someone didn't scan out. And so then they had to pull everybody else off the plane to make sure that they had
Oh.
the count correct. And so then they put us all back on the plane. So then at this point, we're all back on the plane, ready to go, and the pilot's time elapsed. So he didn't
That's
fly
the
us
biggest,
out.
that frustrates you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
had
so
that.
then they pulled us all back off the plane
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then had to wait
I don't
for
know if
another
people
pilot. Yeah.
I don't even know if people that don't fly often know that that's a thing, to be
Yeah.
honest.
No, I know. Yeah. People that don't fly often. Yeah. By the way, this is real.
Yes,
This is life of
yes,
traveling. So at this point, I think we're like 4.5 hours delayed at this point. Like, and the flight, I mean, keep in mind, this is a red eye flight. So it was supposed to take off at like 11:30 at night, which in San Francisco is 3 hours behind my time, which is like now 1 a.m. Right. And
yeah,
so now we're, I think at 2 a.m. San Francisco time or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I didn't get home until like 10 a.m. that next morning when it was supposed to
yeah,
be like a 6 a.m. arrival. It was crazy.
yeah,
Anyway, yeah, and we
and
got
red
off and
eyes
on the plane like
seem
4 times.
that's frustrating. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you, United.
Yes, and red eyes seem like they would be a great idea, right?
They're
Because you
not.
can just sleep on the plane on
They're
the way
not.
there. No,
They're
they're not.
horrible.
They're horrible.
Yeah, unless you get first
Don't
class,
schedule to
they're
be somewhere
doable.
the next morning. Just don't
Yeah,
schedule
no.
to be the next morning. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Lesson
Yeah.
learned.
I have learned take the one extra night and just sleep in the hotel and fly out the
Yeah,
next day.
yeah.
It's worth it. For
Well, I don't
sleep.
mind doing the red eye because it does get me back, right? And because otherwise you're flying all day.
Yeah,
You lose a day of
true.
flying. So I don't mind coming, but I don't anymore. Like the one time I took a red eye from, I think it was from Portland to Newark, and I had to be at work the next morning. And
Yeah,
I don't even remember that day. Like I was
yeah.
so tired. I didn't sleep on the plane at all. The guy next to me kept talking to me all night long. I was literally in the back seat of the plane, all the way against the window where
Yeah,
there's no
let's talk
space at
about
all.
that. Yeah,
Just don't plan for anything. That's what I
yeah,
do now. I just don't plan.
yeah.
The next day is work from home day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Work from home is good. And that's
Yes.
the cool part about the sales role, right?
It is.
Because there are
Yeah.
work from home days. You do have
Yes.
flexibility. You have some freedom that you don't have in a regular scanning type of role, whether that
Correct.
be the director role that you had or scanning every day.
Yeah.
But I think it comes with a great responsibility because you have to be able to manage that freedom and be self-motivated.
Self motivated is key. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be very easy. I think some people that kind of come into this can very easily get into the trap of being at home,
Mhm.
and you can't do that. So, what I found to be very helpful is I still have a schedule. I still will maintain, okay, depending on what my meeting schedule is, sometimes I start earlier than others, but I still set my alarm if I'm home to get up and I am on my computer by a specific time, getting through my emails. Like I still will keep myself on track with things. Now, I will say in the afternoon, I will kind of take a little bit of a break and I go into my home gym and I just kind of get some, it kind of like re energizes me, just get
Mhm.
on and go a little bit. Um, so it's nice to be able to do that,
Yeah.
or, take my dogs out on a walk before
Yeah.
it gets too hot,
Yes. Because
some things like that.
Florida
And
heat.
yes, yes, yes. So,
Don't miss
that's
it.
it's nice having that flexibility, because you're still at home.
Yeah.
But it is important to stay self motivated, because you can very easily get into that trap of like, oh, I'll do it later. Oh, I'm just going to take care of this now and do it later. And I've seen people get in that trap, and you don't want to do that because then the stuff's not getting done.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
fall behind. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, so even for me, like, because so about 3 months ago, I started doing this, full time again, and so for me, I have to be the same way. Self motivation is key. I don't just, sleep until 11 o'clock every day. I can't. I am up. I have my alarm set for 7. I usually wake up before that, but
Yeah,
I have my alarm set 7 o'clock. I'm up. I have 3 Great Danes, so of course, they have to be taken care of, and I have 4 chickens now, so I got to collect eggs. I'm a little farmer, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so I have my little routine where I have my cup of coffee, and I, take care of the dogs, take care of the chickens, and then I get to work.
yeah,
Because even though, I don't have a schedule, I don't have a boss telling me what I have to do. If I don't handle business, I would never get anything done, and I would never earn any income. So,
yeah,
it's all on me. I got to make sure that I have that taken care of. And so the same with sales, you are working for commissions. And
yes,
so, yes, you have some salary behind that, but you also, your primary source of income is commissions, and you have to be the
absolutely.
one earning that. And that's a
Yes,
whole different mentality too. It's
it
not
is.
9 to 5 work, and you are responsible for your income.
Yes, you are. So
Yeah.
it isn't 9 to 5 work. I mean, I was just on vacation, and I was still returning emails and trying to stay connected, which probably isn't always the best thing. But considering I was in hospital leadership before and had to do that, it's kind of
Yeah.
just part of my mindset and part of like my work ethic, I guess. But
Yeah.
you don't have to be that way.
No.
But I tend to be that way. So and especially like you said with sales, um, I do have a salary base, but you are incentivized by commissions.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that you're being responsive to your customers. You want to make sure that you are, kind of on top of those things. And so if you lose that self motivation and you kind of kick things back, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it right in your pocketbook.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel good. Whereas when you are being successful and things are coming in, it feels good. Like not only are you helping people get the latest equipment and helping them, benefit their patients the way that they want to benefit their patients, but you're bringing in a nice income with that too. So self motivation is key for anybody who wants to come in. I guess that goes back to when you said, well, what are the things that you would need? We should
Mhm.
probably should put that high on the list.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And being, self organized too.
Yeah.
It's being able to manage yourself in any
Priorities.
location. Yeah, and in any location. I mean, you need to be able to prioritize things well, you're right, absolutely. Understand what comes first, because it's still ever changing. I mean, just like in a hospital, you've got, 40 echoes that need done, and all of a sudden you get
More than that.
3 yeah, 3 stats and,
Yeah.
urgents and, ASAP and all these different, and now you've got the doctor from the cath lab calling. How do you prioritize that?
Yeah.
This is no different. You find your priorities. What do I need to focus on the most? Um, and then I try to schedule some time aside for like the mundane stuff, like the things that maybe aren't always my biggest priority but need done, like expense accounts.
Yeah.
We
That's always fun. Yeah.
spend money, right? And
Yeah.
so between flying and
Then you gotta submit
hotels
all
and
your expenses and
everything else,
receipts,
yes,
and yeah. And
yep,
that was huge for me. So learning to do that when I first got into industry, I mean, I owned my own business before that, way before. So yes, I understood keeping receipts and keeping track of things, but having to actually like submit them in this formal like concur type of platform and
yep,
all of that, you have to account for everything you do, and some
everything.
companies give you more leeway than others, but depending on the company, I've worked for a few. And so, some might say anything over $25 you need a receipt for.
Yes,
Others are $75. And there's another one, every single penny you need a
yes,
receipt for it,
yes. Mhm.
So you have to be super organized, because if you lose that receipt, guess what? You're not getting reimbursed for that. You're paying for it yourself.
Or you could lose your job.
Yep. That too.
You have to be expense accounts are very, very important to keep organized because it can be and has been. I've seen it happen where that's the reason why people lose their job in this field. So,
Yeah.
you do that. That's an organization in itself. If you're doing any type of program where people are signing in for food, you need to make sure that you have all of their information,
Mhm.
and that you don't lose that because
Yeah.
you're going to have to account for the people that you're feeding.
Yeah. And there's a moral and ethical standpoint behind that, right? So when you're dealing particularly with pharmaceuticals and when you're dealing with an industry standpoint of ultrasound equipment, you can't like just give stuff to doctors. You can't
Mhm.
just give things away, whether that be
Yeah,
a luncheon or whatever. There are laws that you have to follow to make sure that you're not giving kickbacks because you can't give them something expecting them to then purchase your product in return, right?
right. There's
And so
no quid
there's
pro quo.
yeah, there's so many laws that go into place that you have to be aware of and make sure that you're following ethically so that
Yes,
you're not getting yourself in trouble, let alone the organization that you work for, because they can get fined for that, and you
yes,
can get fired for that. So,
yes.
there's a lot of
Even on top of that, I mean, there's some counties that will not allow you to spend anything, and you have to go through and pay
in
the
Florida.
county fees.
Yeah.
Yes, pay the
Yeah.
county fees to be able to work in that county.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't come out of my pocket. I mean,
Yeah.
understandable, but you have to pay them fees to go out of the pocket or to work in the county, and then you have to sometimes take classes, and go through a program and get signed off to be able to work in there.
And that's
Um,
because of history of fraud, right?
yes,
Usually, for example, Miami-Dade area, there's been a large history of fraud there. And
yeah,
so the government has come in to try to say, we're not allowing this fraud to happen anymore. And so you have to follow all these rules. And
correct.
unfortunately, because the rules are in place because they were abused before. But now you have to have all these restrictions that you have to be aware of and
Yeah.
follow. Yeah.
It's that one phrase, "It only takes one to ruin it for all of us," you know?
Yeah.
You know,
One
but
bad apple.
right, but
Yeah.
it makes it a little bit more difficult to do business there because I have to be extremely strict on anything, like, anything that I'm spending in areas like that, I have to make sure that I can account for. So,
Yeah.
you just that organization is very, very key with this job,
Yeah. I
for
think
sure.
there's a lot of things that people don't consider when they get into sales or any
Oh,
industries
I know I
involved.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I know
had like,
yeah.
yeah.
You don't realize some of the complexities that are in it. It seems like oh, it's great. You get to go in and teach people. You don't have to do patients, all those things that kind of go through some of the people's heads. And yeah, you don't necessarily have to do patients. And most of the time you're not allowed to touch anything with
Yeah.
the patient.
Yeah.
But, but there's a definite different, stress, uh, organization, prioritization, all of that that's included in it.
Yeah. And people don't really see that side of it unless they're
They
in
don't.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't.
So I think this has been a really beneficial conversation for anyone who's looking to get into sales about what to expect because no one really tells you what to expect. You get in it and you're just kind of like all this stuff gets thrown at you, you know?
Yes,
Yeah, you
yes,
learn as you go. So I
yes.
think having a heads
A
up is
lot of learning as you go. It is definitely a lot of learn as you go.
yeah.
It's I think when we were in ultrasound, there was that phrase that people would always say, "See one, do one, teach one."
I've used
This one
that phrase
is
before.
yeah,
Yeah.
this one is just do one, teach one if you can. Like, there's
This
not
one's
always the see
see one,
one.
teach one. You don't always do it
You don't always get the see
or
one
just
for
teach
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I definitely try to help new people coming on board into industry so that they can understand just because, coming from the hospital into industry for me, I don't know if people in industry just think that some of this is common knowledge, like how to use Concur and, some of those things,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's not when you're coming from the
It's
hospital.
not. So I
So,
came in to industry and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, you need to set up this, you need to be set up all your vendor credentialing. And I'm like,
oh, vendor credentialing, we didn't even talk about that.
oh, I know. Like what is all this? I didn't know what Concur was. And by the
Yes,
way, for those who don't know, Concur is a platform where you can track all of your credentials, you can book your flights, you can book your hotels, and that it helps to be one central hub and location for your organization to be able to manage all of the travel and expenses of
yes.
their personnel.
And if you
So,
have a corporate credit card, every one of those
yeah,
charges gets run through Concur, and you have to
yes,
account for them.
yes,
Some companies you utilize your own card and they reimburse, but most of what all of what I have incurred has been, you have a corporate credit card and it runs through Concur, and you have to be accountable for it. So if you spend 5 cents, it's coming through Concur.
yeah. And so I've worked for organizations that have done both. I've worked for an organization where there was no corporate card, and it was all on my own. And I
Yeah,
didn't know that getting into it. And I didn't really have, like, I mean, I just didn't really use a lot of credit at that point in my life. So like
Yeah.
I had like 2 credit cards and I barely used them, you know what I mean? And they didn't have a huge balance or limit on them. So when I got into that company, I was like, well, I guess I need to like get a real credit card.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you don't realize this is something you might need to do is to actually have a credit card with at least
Mhm.
$10,000 limit on it because
Yes.
you're gonna spend it.
You're going to quickly,
Very,
quickly.
very, very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah,
So yeah, good. It's a good question to ask when you are interviewing with an organization is if they do
absolutely.
allow you to have your own corporate card or if you are required to use your own card. Now, there are
Yes.
benefits to using your own card because you get your points, you get your cash back, you get, you know what I mean? Like, so you have perks if you use your own corporate card and or your
Yeah.
own credit card. And I actually prefer that over using a corporate card because you get to keep all those points.
Yeah,
Um,
and some companies allow you to keep the points as well. It's a question that I would ask when you come on
yeah.
board. Some do not, some do.
Yeah. So I think there's a difference between your points that you build or cash back that you might build in a credit card versus your airline, your hotel points, and those kinds of
Yeah, no,
reward points.
Amex, there's companies that allow you to keep your Amex points.
Yeah.
Some of them do not, but some do. Yeah, I think you have to pay like a fee to Amex for it.
Yeah.
But again, some do allow you, like usually your airline, your hotel points, all of that still
You get
stays
all
with
that.
you no matter what, typically. But the credit card perks, like you were talking
Yeah.
about, if you're going in to interview, maybe, ask those questions if you want
Yeah.
to, or when you get the offer, ask those
Yeah.
questions. Probably when you get the offer,
With
ask
the
those questions.
offer, not during the interview.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
How
Leave
many
that alone
perks do
during an interview.
I get?
Yeah.
Just take
But
notes for when
definitely
I
find out before you,
yeah,
because that matters. That impacts like your financial day-to-day stuff. So
yes.
yeah, but most do offer a corporate credit card, but not all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was huge for me too. And then learning vendor credentialing. I had no
Uh,
idea everything that's
vendor
involved with that,
credentialing.
you
Vendor
know,
credentialing is like, oh, okay. You wanna talk
the
about the
bane of
biggest
your
frustration.
existence.
It is, it really is. I mean, I hope no credentialing agencies are watching this,
I
but
know.
it is incredibly difficult. So I, in this
We
job, have
value you, vendor credentialing organizations, but yet we are frustrated by you, just so you know.
yes. So, since coming into this field, I have covered a vast majority of the Southeast. You know that, and at one time I was covering Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida. I mean, large territory, and I think even at one point I had Puerto Rico in there
Yeah.
included. Um, every hospital in that entire territory has a vendor credentialing agency.
And
And
they don't all use the same one.
they do not all use the same one. And I don't know that hospitals understand how complex this can be sometimes. And I don't know that it matters to them. But yeah, they don't all use the same one. So you have to make sure that you are up to date and you've paid for each one of those vendor credentialing agencies. And I think there's like 6 now. And some areas are even starting to like hospital systems are starting to create their own, which makes
Yeah, because
more.
they're paying a lot of money for that service when
They're
they
paying
can
a
do
lot
it
of money for
themselves if
that
they have the
service.
staff. Yeah.
Yes, and then so once I'm in there and I have to sign up for these hospitals that you wanna go into, now each hospital has so now I've gone through the vendor credentialing, expectations, right, with the company, the overhead company.
And
Now
that
for each
usually involves providing like a letter of insurance, your insurance certificate from the organization you work for. That involves
liability,
liability, various
background
documentation that you have
check,
to submit to say,
yeah,
I have been hired by this. I've had a drug screening. I've had basic,
background check, yeah, all of that.
background check, etc. Yeah.
You have to submit like your driver's license photo for them. They sometimes they run a background on even your driving history. Just
Mhm.
there's just a lot that you do for the credentialing agencies themselves, and they all have different expectations of that. And then you get into the hospital aspect. And so each hospital that you're going into now, they have their own expectations. And some of it is already covered by what you've done for the vendor credentialing agency, but there is always so much more. Most of the
Mhm.
time, every hospital has their own policies that you have to read through. So imagine
Sign off
covering
on.
9 states and having to remember every policy from the parking policy to, sometimes I have to know what their codes are. And
Yeah.
just think about how
Yeah.
many policies you have in a hospital and put that into what we also have to read.
Right. Yeah.
And so I have to be like cognizant of every hospital that I'm going into and what these policies are that they have on there, including like where I'm allowed to park as a vendor, things like
Mhm.
that. And then on top of that, they sometimes have their own expectations for, I have some hospitals that want an expanded drug screen beyond what
Yeah.
my company and the vendor credentialing agency wanted. Some hospitals that won't accept certain credentials that I have, so they want them from other places. Some that have, like, they want us to go through their own hand washing and,
Yep. Yeah.
fire
Bloodborne pathogens
bloodborne
courses and
pathogens and
yeah.
stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and
HIPAA courses of
all
their
of
own
that,
that they make and that you have to complete all of their requirements.
yes.
Yeah.
So, that is probably, I can't even believe we got this it took us this long in the conversation to get to this, but that is probably the most difficult part of
Yeah.
this job because
Yes.
you're constantly having to keep up with these things at all. And if you cover a large territory like I do, that is a lot to keep up with,
Yeah.
because they don't all expire at the same time, and
Mhm.
they'll put in new expectations, and it's just, I wish I just had a secretary that could just manage all of that for me.
Yeah.
Be like, "Hey, Lisa, you need to go get your TB test. Hey, Lisa, you need to go get, this, that, or the other." And,
Yeah.
because it just, it's a lot. That is
It is a
definitely
lot.
a lot. And
And
I
it
don't know.
also requires pre-planning on your part because sometimes they require you to schedule an appointment through
Yes,
the actual
vendor
the
credentialing
actual vendor
agency.
credentialing company.
Mhm.
Some don't require that, some do. And
Yeah.
then you have to make sure several days in advance when you know you're going in somewhere that you have all of your green checks and you're checked off that you have everything that this
Yes.
particular hospital requires of you
Yes.
to be able to walk in the front door.
And I have to review their policies because, I didn't remember them. Too many to remember. I'm not
Yeah.
going to remember where I'm supposed to park at that place tomorrow, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have to kinda go in and
Or
just
what
check,
scrubs to wear if
or
you're
what scrubs to
which
wear.
yeah,
Yes, that's the other
yeah,
thing. Some of them require specific colored scrubs. One
yes.
place that I went to actually required orange scrubs. I felt like
Oh,
a
I know
prisoner.
what place that is.
Yes. I feel like a prisoner going into vendor
Can we talk
credentialing.
about it? Hey,
Yeah,
I
I don't
love the Cleveland Clinic. I've worn my
know.
Cleveland Clinic scrubs, don't
More
worry.
than just Cleveland Clinic, though. It is
Oh,
more than
really?
just Cleveland Clinic.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, no,
um
I used to joke about looking like a felon when I would walk into a Cleveland
you do,
Clinic.
you feel like a felon, and then I have another place that requires purple, so I feel
Oh,
like bumping
nice.
walking in there.
Yeah,
So you have to also make sure that you have scrubs for the color for every place that you're going into as well. So, there's a lot of thought behind the job because you have to make sure that you have all of these things that are required by every facility that you're going
yeah,
into. So, we started off talking about organization and some of the things that you need to be able to do. And that's why I think organization, like I said before, is very important in this job because there's just a lot of aspects to it that you are having to juggle and
mhm.
having to make sure is right. Because if you show up and you don't have the right scrubs, I don't care
You're
how far
not
you flew,
getting
they're not going to let you in.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
And then there's
that's just,
rep scrubs, which is a whole other conversation. They're just
yes,
beautiful, aren't they?
the vending machine paper
The
scrubs,
vending machine scrubs. You have
that
to have
are
an
the one
account.
size fits no one.
Exactly.
And they have sizes, but they don't fit
They don't
anybody.
fit at all. And then you
Yeah.
have this red hairnet that's just lovely.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, I forget about
Fun
those. I
times.
mean,
I don't miss that. I don't. I
yeah.
loved my time in industry and I value it and I kind of miss it a little bit, to
Yeah.
be honest. I do. I miss that a little bit. But I love doing what I'm doing now. I love being able to really create my own world, right? Like
Yeah.
that's there's nothing like it. But
You're a
I do
very
miss
creative person too,
thank you.
so, I mean, I think that's one of your high strong points, I guess I'll say.
Thank you.
So this is a good thing for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I love it. I love what I'm doing now. I wouldn't trade
Yeah.
it for anything, but every once in a while, I do miss industry just because it's this. I don't know. It's this fun, like exciting thing to do,
Yeah.
and you get to meet so many people. At least in the roles I've held, I've met so many incredible people within the world of ultrasound and cardiology, and it just blows my mind the places that role took me in my career,
Yeah.
and just the people that I've met from that, and it humbles me to know that. So I
You
do
can
miss that
learn
a
a
little
lot.
bit.
You can learn a lot in this too. I
Yeah.
mean, I learn so much from my customers. I really, truly do. You know, ultrasound in general is a forever changing, always learning field.
Yeah.
This doesn't change that. I mean, one, having the ultrasound background, like I learn things constantly on that aspect, but I also learn things just about industry in general from them,
Mhm.
you know, and what their perspectives are, and things like that. It's been, for me, I like you said, you miss it, but you wouldn't change what you're doing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I love being able to get out and connect with people. I love being able to help people get, you know, high quality equipment, or previously, you know, working with the enhancement agents, you know, just helping them provide that better patient care that they need to. And then there's always an aspect of this end of the job for me where I can jump in and teach, which I love to do as well. So like it just kind of keeps my hand, in my opinion, in different areas of the field that my heart goes out to, that I absolutely love. And I think a lot of people that are in ultrasound, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have found our passion in our job. You know, it's one of the
Mhm.
things my husband tells people all the time. Well, you know, Lisa never really works because she loves what she does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
and everybody should be striving for that.
Yep.
You should love what you're doing. And if you
Yeah.
don't love it,
Do
look for
something
another
else.
avenue. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, if you're in
Yeah.
ultrasound and you're not loving it, find one of these other pathways that Laura is
Mhm.
bringing to you, because there are so many for us. You're not pigeonholed into patient care every
No.
single day. And you came into this field for a reason. There must be something that drew you to it. Find your passion in it. This
Yeah.
is mine, you know?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. No,
yeah.
and that for me, I love teaching. I love education.
Mhm.
One of you actually hired me as an educator, as an education specialist,
Yes.
and so that I love education, and that has been really what I've built my career around. And even though yes, I went into industry, I was still teaching. I was still educating on a regular basis.
Yes.
And
You
so
are.
that's really where my passion lies. And so being able to do that, I'm just humbled and honored that I'm able to do that on a regular basis. And I've found where I fit, and I've found what I love about ultrasound. I love everything ultrasound.
Yeah.
But I love education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love it too. For me, I get to do that in this job. You know, I
Mhm.
still have the opportunity to teach people. And so, you know, I feel like this gives me a well-rounded um, approach to the field.
Yeah.
And I do feel like I am like I'm adding to the field. I do feel like I'm still adding to the field. I still feel like I'm relevant. I'm able to help drive the field further, you know,
Yeah.
because this has been constant growth since I started in this field. I mean, it just is, it's boomed. And I think anybody that's been in it, even for a few short years,
Just
but definitely
5,
those,
6 years ago, things have changed, let alone the 25 years I've been doing this, and I mean, you've been doing it a little longer than me, you
yeah,
know?
it's a different world, totally
It
different
is.
world.
Totally.
And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Just
No.
the capabilities that are out there are just, they're booming.
Yeah.
Um,
Some of the
so
ultrasound systems that are on the market today, particularly one of the ones that you're selling, which we won't talk about in detail, but
yes,
there are so many great elements with AI built into the
yeah,
ultrasound systems now. That we didn't have that. I learned Echo pretty much on a 5500.
yeah,
So, then scanned a little backwards on a 2500 for a little
mhm,
while. But, like
yeah,
I learned on HP 5500. I
yeah,
was doing echo with videotape.
yep. Videotape and printouts with calipers, and
Yep.
you know, I remember when harmonics came out, and I was like, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
you know, just things like that. And I talk to people every day that are like, oh, I remember whenever we came from B mode, you know, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, it
Yeah.
really has been a short trip, you know, it
Yeah.
really has.
Yeah.
In this short amount of time, just became this very robust modality, in medicine. And I think it's amazing. And some of the things that you even see them doing now with, you know, like cancer care and things like that, and being able to try to
Yeah.
like utilize it to annihilate tumors and things. I mean, those aren't
Yeah.
things that are
Like
necessarily
the high focus ultrasound.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are things that they're working on and looking at, and it's just like, where are we going to be in
Yeah.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I think, that's why I love it. That's why I think it's so
Yeah.
exciting. And anybody that's getting into it, especially the students, like there's just so much that's coming down the pike that has already come down the pike. And
Yeah.
it's an incredible field.
Yeah. I was talking with, Richie Palma a couple days ago,
Yeah. Love
and
Richie.
so yeah, he's amazing. His career just blows my mind, everything he's
Yeah.
contributed to the field.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about artificial intelligence because he was on a committee to develop a paper around that.
Mhm.
And, AI has changed the way we do ultrasound, number 1.
Yeah.
Obviously it still has some flaws around it, but we were talking about how AI is incredible in just performing the analysis and the analysis of ultrasound. But now, there's companies out there that are not only using AI to perform EF and get us our basic calculations and strain, but they're actually using it to predict heart failure.
Yes.
And this is validated. Like this is validated studies that are out with the Mayo Clinic that AI has just reshaped what we do in not just looking at analysis of measurements and data on an ultrasound machine, but also clinically how patients are being treated. And
Yeah.
that blows my mind a little bit. Like that's a little crazy.
It is, and when you look at I mean, just look how fast AI has been growing just over the past couple years. And and some people are a little cautious around AI, right? Which, understandable. A lot of us have seen the Terminator. And so, you've got a little bit of
You're
a
dating yourself. No.
I think I already did that, but,
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
That's okay. We're both old. It's all right.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. I
Yeah,
wear it proudly anymore,
I know. Hey, I have
but
2 grandbabies. It's all good.
yeah, but it's like, some people are cautious of it, and understandably, but it's grown. It's a beast that's like really rapidly growing, and it can add a huge benefit to us as sonographers.
Mhm.
Um, I think, like you said, just where things are going with the AI in this field, like I don't think in our lifetime at all, it's going to take over our field, because you still have those little minute movements that you need to make just to get the image in. Not every patient is the same in the way that their body habitus is. I mean, we all know those challenges of getting images, right? So I don't
Mhm.
see AI necessarily taking over our job, but from the time I started in Echo, I think I had said it earlier, I would be taking 25 to 30 images on a video cassette. And I had 45 minutes. And I say this to customers all the time. So any of my customers that are listening have probably heard this from me. Um, but here we are, years
Yeah.
later, we still have 45 minutes, but now we're doing all these structural heart procedures and we're
Mhm.
doing, we're
Yeah.
able to get so much. Like, then it was like, okay, get an ejection fraction, take a look at the valves, see if they have aortic stenosis. Pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
It's not that complex. Now we're doing PISA and we're doing TAPSE and we're doing strain and we're doing,
Left atrial reservoir
contrast.
strain because now it's part of the diastology grading component.
Yes, and we're doing imaging enhancing agents, and now we can even do strain with imaging enhancing agents, and, there's just so much more that's being delivered to us
Yeah.
to provide, and it's going to continue as structural heart procedures and these other procedures that are going, minimally invasive, are becoming more and more. We still have the same 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So AI is like, it's a lifesaver to us in ultrasound anymore because it's almost like having a little personal assistant there with you, helping you kind of get this robust information that you need to get in
Yeah.
this short amount of time together. And another thing that I try to say to people is, that can allow us the time to go back to perfecting our art, right? Because we're
Yeah.
all artists.
We are.
We're making a picture. We're not
Yep.
picture takers, but we are making
No.
a picture. We want, great image quality. And sometimes that takes work, moving the patient, rolling them back and forth, having them breathe,
Breathe in,
you know,
breathe out. Yeah.
breathe in, breathe out, all of these different things. And just being able to fine tune where your image is by, those little tugs on the skin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
AI can allow us to go back to that art and bring that back to perfecting our image quality and bringing that image quality back to, and I'm not saying people don't do that, but it's really hard to do that whenever you're
In
trying to get
45 minutes, that can be
people.
difficult with everything, the IAC standards set out what should be able to be accomplished in that 45 minutes, and I think it's a fair amount, but when you start adding on all the extras, like you said, there's strain, there's, left atrial strain, there's 3D, there's all of these things that, you know, aren't necessarily in a complete image protocol, but yet it's expected to be done, right? And a
Yes.
lot of facilities are now doing strain and 3D on every single patient, and as well as they should. I agree that that should be done.
Yeah.
I think that it brings benefit to your patient, but
Yes.
you got to have time for that.
You gotta have time for that, right? And how I mean, what's the point in doing it if you don't have accurate imaging or good imaging, right? Because you're not going, especially strain. If you're not in the right view, if you're foreshortened, if you're anything of that, you're just wasting your time doing the
Yeah,
strain.
yeah.
So, looking at AI, look at it. I think people, can look at it as that benefit, that little helper that kind of helps you be able to get the information, provide the best image quality because we want to provide good image quality.
Hmm.
I I believe all sonographers want to provide good image quality.
Yeah,
That's why we came here.
right. Yeah. But and I think that it doesn't always come out that way when you are stressed and you are, kind of strapped for time
Yeah,
because, I mean, not that you should settle, you shouldn't, but I think sometimes
you
sonographers
have
might
to.
settle
You
because they
have to.
have to. Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to scanning.
me too.
So
That's why
with
I'm not doing
everything
it
with
anymore
everything I do in my life. Huh?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But I was saying that's why I'm not scanning anymore because I was too much of a perfectionist. It would take me too long. I would probably get fired for taking too long at this point, but,
Yeah. No, but you have to have that balance between being a perfectionist and being a realist
time
and
management.
knowing that you
Yeah,
can't this is what we got. We
right, the time
can't
management aspect of it.
sit here any longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Little
it's a difficult struggle, I think, for sonographers nowadays, for sure.
yeah.
Just that timing. It's there's a lot that you need to do in that time frame, and I think that's part of what's leading to burnout of
Mhm.
people, because they're getting these overwhelming protocols, which are necessary. I mean, we
Mhm.
can do all of this now non-invasively for
Yeah.
people. We should
Yeah.
be able to.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
when
left atrial strain correlates with right heart cath. Like,
right,
if we can get it from left atrial strain and
you're
we can do
saying
that non-invasively and it's a match correlation, why not? Right? Like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's great that we can do all these things. I think it's a huge benefit to the patient. But it's I think what burns people out is because we don't have, the extra time. I mean, we all know scanning, 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 scanning. Yeah, you can do that all day back to back to back, but by the time you go home, your back hurts, your shoulder hurts, your arm hurts, like
My
everything
shoulder
hurts.
still hurts.
Yeah, it's like and you just get to the point where you're just like, why? Why
Yeah.
am I doing this now? So yeah, I think AI is going to help benefit us in the future by helping us kind of be able to go back to taking that time and getting those great images and like getting the patients to do the breath work that we need. And I think it's going to be like it's our little friend.
Yeah. I think that's a good point because I think that a lot of, some of the things that I've heard when I've talked to people about AI and its benefit to sonographers is a little bit of pushback that, yeah, that's great. It's going to save us all this time, but that just means our employers are going to schedule more patients, right?
Yeah,
Which leads to more burnout. And I don't necessarily think that that's incorrect. I think that that may happen in some cases, but I think that if sonographers will use it as a tool and do what you're talking about, where they
yeah,
still take the same amount of time, right? Yes, they're saving time in these areas, so it helps them, but they take that extra time to really perfect the craft. And
yeah,
so, there it doesn't necessarily allow for extra time for an add-on in the schedule necessarily or cramming more studies in a day, but to really bring excellence to that patient. So, I
yeah,
think if we can balance it a little bit with that, then, AI, like you said, it is definitely that helper that we need to just as a tool to be able
yeah.
to improve our skills. So
And I think stenographers can advocate for themselves in that aspect, and they should,
they should.
because I think the AI that's coming and the AI that's here is, like I said, that helper, and I think that can be a fear of theirs where they're just going to add them on. Advocate for yourselves,
Yeah.
bring back the understanding, and you can talk about how sometimes things do get foreshortened. And if you're foreshortening them, it's not accurate anyways.
Not at
And then what are
all.
you doing when the patient comes back in and then somebody doesn't foreshorten it?
Right.
And you're having these drastic changes in your strain analysis, or enhancing agents,
Yeah.
having that time to be able to perform those the way that you need to as well.
Mhm.
Just advocate for the things that you need, because the
No one
time
else
savings,
will.
yeah, and the time savings is there for you to be able to do your job the way you need to do your job.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I think
That's
that that is a key point, and just embrace the AI, but advocate.
mhm. No, I agree completely. Yeah. And
Yes.
I think that you have to advocate for yourself in so many different things in the ultrasound space,
Yeah.
unfortunately, with ergonomics and everything else. But the good part about ergonomics now, I think that, I actually just recently put together a CME course that's free, by the way, on allaboutultrasound.com for ergonomics. So if you need a free CME, it's there. Um, but looking at putting that together, we have responsibilities from the manufacturer, we have responsibilities from the employer, and we have responsibilities from the sonographer.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the ergonomics heaviness and the weight of that, of ensuring that we reduce work place related musculoskeletal injury, doesn't just fall on one entity. It falls on the manufacturer, and so many manufacturers have now really shifted the way their ultrasound machines work. You can attest to that. The systems now, they move better, they're lightweight, you can manipulate the screen, the arm, the dashboard, all of it around, so
Mhm.
that you can work with that patient better,
Yeah.
and you can
There's even
provide.
some working to minimize the repetitive motion,
Yes.
which is, that's where we get a lot of our injuries at. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that
it does fall
constant
on
click.
all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
constant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the all night you're dreaming about this in your sleep, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's studies, I think, that have been done on that, and as far as looking at, how these changes in systems actually help sonographers and ergonomics. And so, that responsibility has been, I think, really, I think industry has stepped up when it comes to ergonomics, for at least for echo. General ultrasound, I think they're working on as well, but for sure echo machines, they have significantly changed, over the last, I would say, 5 years, maybe 5 to
yeah,
6 years, and how they're configured to really help with ergonomics. And then there is a employer responsibility too. You need a bed that has a window if you're doing echo, you need a dropout table, you need, chairs that move right. I unfortunately, I scanned mobile ultrasound for over a decade, and so you're
yeah, you
standing in a
don't.
closet.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
which isn't
remember
okay.
I one time worked for a sports agency that we would kind of travel and do with them. And I remember the one time doing, and I don't know if I should say who it was, but I
Yeah.
remember traveling the one time and doing echoes. We were in an arena, and the echoes we were doing was in a shower stall while people were
Nice.
showering, other
Yeah,
shower stalls. And I
yeah,
had a laptop system and a music stand to
very
work with.
nice. Yeah.
No ergonomics whatsoever.
Yeah, that reminds me of a company I used to work for, not mine. But yeah, but even so, even mine, like, mobile ultrasound is what it is, and so, like, you try your best with ergonomics, but sometimes you're going into a doctor's office or a nursing
Yeah.
home, or, so there's things about that aren't always controllable factors. But, that's where the sonographer does have to advocate for themselves and use the right positioning and all of that stuff too. So, yeah, I think that, advocating for yourself in the AI world and scheduling and all of those things, sonographers have to have a voice. And
Yes.
sometimes when you're newer to the field, I think learning that has is probably, everybody's got different personalities, but you do have to learn to speak up for yourself in this
Yes.
field and
Yeah,
advocate for
absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we can get kind of run over by the, do,
Yeah.
constant go, go, go.
Yeah.
And you feel intimidated to not be able to kind of stand up for yourself. But I think that, as sonographers, we need to, no matter what part of the industry you're in, we need to
Mhm.
support each other on that. And so like I said, for me with my customers and stuff, I very often talk about how the time savings with AI can give you the ability to craft that art,
Yeah.
because it's it's important. So yeah, I think, we all have to stick together in that advocacy for
Mhm.
making sure that we're not getting injured. Because if you look at the injury rates, yeah, you can Google it and it'll say nurses have, the highest rate of injuries. That's by volume, not by percentage. So if you look at the percentage of ultrasound sonographers that get injured, we have the highest rate of medically related injuries of all of medicine.
Yeah.
Um, and that's very expensive, not only to the facilities, like on average, it's $100,000 per year per injury, to the facilities, but it could be career ending for
Yeah.
us as sonographers. So
Yeah.
always advocate for yourself. And remember, somebody told me this a long time ago. Keep in mind, your patient's there for 45 minutes, you're there all day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
needs to be uncomfortable? And granted, there's those patients where you're just stuck and you've got to get it done.
Yeah.
But for the most part, be good
Yeah.
to your body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, something that took me a long time to learn, and some injuries to learn.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think for me, the hardest thing is transvaginal ultrasounds. I don't think I'll ever do another one because I just like, my shoulder can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, done
Yeah.
one,
Yeah,
but
well, you weren't listening.
vascular got me pretty good sometimes. I feel bad for some of those vascular techs because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are just stretched out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I don't know how to get around
augment
them.
with this hand and scan with
Yeah,
this, yeah. I
yeah.
always told people I needed a third arm.
I do. I think
Yeah,
they do sometimes, yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
It's tough, it's
yeah,
tough to find, how do you keep yourself from getting injured, but it's important. Yeah.
yeah,
That's where I think, like, we're talking about the AI, I think that's something that's gonna, hopefully help us in this field.
yeah. I hope so too. We'll see. The future we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
I am excited for the future of ultrasound. We've come so far looking back from what I've seen, what you've seen in our careers. Um, just I'm excited for what's coming.
Yes,
There's
me
so
too.
much more and vendors are coming out with new things every day and they're pushing the boundaries of what we can do in ultrasound. And so
Yes.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah, I
exciting
mean,
time.
look at all the devices now. I mean,
Yeah, crazy.
we do so much, minimally invasive heart procedures, and there's more coming. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just which, you know, as I'm getting older, like we talked about, and I'm kind of like excited about because, you start worrying. I'm not really like worrying about my health to that aspect, but it
Yeah.
starts coming to you, right? You
Yeah.
start thinking, oh, what
Yep.
if I'm going to need some of these procedures? What if
Yeah.
I have these issues? And so, like, knowing that you can start getting some procedures that used to be only done by open heart surgery,
Right. Yeah.
you can be in and out in a day,
Yeah.
and
Tears and TAVRs and mirrors and you know what I mean?
all of
Like
that.
all
Yes.
of it. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just so much, and then preventing strokes, and just
Mhm.
there's just so much that, it's exciting. It's very
Yeah.
exciting.
It is an exciting time to be in medicine, let alone in ultrasound or particularly cardiology. Cardiology is just leaps and bounds changed from the last few years, let alone the last
Yeah,
20. So,
it really
yeah.
has. No, I can't speak much to at all to the general ultrasound side, but, I
It's
know
changed,
for
but
cardiology, yeah,
I think there's a little less AI in, general ultrasound. I mean, there's some in abdomen. There's definitely some key, AI factors in abdomen and as well as OBGYN. There's a lot of AI surrounding OBGYN and fetal echo
yeah,
as well. I think some of the other areas get a little lost with that. But there's a lot of things even in like, musculoskeletal ultrasound doing shear wave and all kinds of other aspects too. So yeah, I mean, there's changes in all of it, but I think in the AI side, I've seen mostly more in OBGYN and echo. Echo has just taken off in AI
yeah.
compared to some of the other modalities. So
Yeah, it's taken off with, just in general. I
yeah.
mean, like you said, from the time that we've kind of come into this field, and the people that are older than us, even they've seen even more. But it's just, oh gosh, it's so robust. It's so exciting.
Hmm.
Really is. Really is
Yeah.
exciting.
Yep. I'm excited for the future. So I so appreciate this conversation. I think that it is
Mhm.
very insightful for those who are looking for a change and looking for kind of what they can do in ultrasound that isn't scanning every day, abusing their bodies. um, yeah. So there's a lot to it, especially that vendor credentialing piece. It's lots of fun.
Mhm. Yes.
So thank you for
Better credentialing. If you're listening, please make it easier.
please make it easier. Please
Just
make
a
it
little bit
easier. Yeah,
easier.
exactly. I don't see that happening. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah.
We
But
can
yeah,
dream, we
so
can all dream.
yeah, dreams are good, I
Yeah.
guess. Keep
Yeah,
dreaming.
yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and really highlighting what's possible in this field.
Yeah,
And that, people you don't have to scan every day to still bring value to the industry as a whole. So thank you for
totally
that.
agree.
I appreciate
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So this
It's
has been
fun.
another episode of Sonographers After Dark with Lisa Carnprobst. And I'm Lara Williams. I will see you next time.